This is our 5th year of bringing Mike Matson out to the fraternity and educating these guys about our heritage. Mike was the artist that conceived, designed, developed, and built the Lions with the help with some fraternity brothers in the spring of 1968. And he's gonna tell you how it all happened, and then maybe we'll open up for some questions if you have them. And at the end of the day, at the end of our session here, I'd like each and every one of you to shake Mike Matson's hand, because 30 years from now, when most of the alumni here will be pushing up daisies, you won't, and you'll be able to pass along what you heard and saw today and say, yeah, I shook Mike Matson's hand. He's the guy that made these Lions. So this is a seminal time in your experience as an SAE, and we're going to turn it over to Mike and let him talk a little bit about him.
All right. Anyway, we getting used to this now. We're talking about how these things came about, these Lions, and it's kind of an interesting story, but it's not that complex. You know, I was like 18, like all the rest of you guys, and I didn't know shit. You know, I got to tell you guys, I heard that the architect was going to hire someone to build these Lions, an artist, and I knew the guy, and I thought maybe I might just go down there to this architect's office and offer my services to see if I could do it. So this 18-year-old kid winds up in this architect's office, and he says, "Have you ever done any sculpture before?" And I said, "No." "Do you have any classes, in sculpture?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, why don't you make a model?" And so I did. I made a wax model, and according to this photograph that was given to us, and I submitted it, and he liked it. It worked out. He said, "Well, now you have to build the master model." And the Lions, the first model was supposed to be like another 2 feet taller, which is outrageous. I spent the whole summer building a model of this giant lion. And I did it in clay and paper. And they came out to examine the piece, the architect and an engineer and the alumni. And they said they liked my work, but it was too big. So I made another model, another smaller model. And this time, we made it so that we could actually cast it here. Now, to explain this, we had a clay model that we made a fiberglass mold of. So we had made seams along the face, 2 sides, and the top. And I had done some reading on bronze casting, and the problem was to equalize the pressure on the inside and the outside as the piece was cast. So we built a big wood box around the whole thing. And from the top of the roof, we took 5-gallon buckets of cement that we mixed by hand and poured it in the top of the wings, and we had an air vent at the top of the head. So as the cement rose, the sand was poured in around the mold to equalize the pressure. We could have been killed. There's like 7 tons of cement here. And it ended up working. The thing dried, and then we hand chiseled it. And I look at this thing, and now, and I see it as such a wonderful remedial stab at animal anatomy, and it really fascinates me. you know, the clunkiness of it and the crudeness of it is perfect. It couldn't have been any better. The thing almost looks like a ruin in a number of ways. I made a comment earlier, and I was thinking about this before I came over, and I asked myself, if there was an atomic war and someone were to find this building with these lions in front, what would they say? You know, what would be questions they would ask about what went on here? What occurred in this place? And the answer is that these are symbols of our youth, of this fleeting youth, this period of time that's so precious and going by so fast. By the time you say, now, it's too late. And I'm telling you guys, you know, this is 41 years later. 41 years after this thing, it was spring break. And we pulled these molds off of this thing and chiseled down the face of it. And we were all awestruck about the whole idea of it. The very fact that it worked. It somehow set us apart from everybody else. None of the other fraternities have anything like this. You know, we're the SAEs. We have these figures that announce to everyone who passes by of the brotherhood that we have behind this building. And if they have an atomic war, these things are still going to be standing. But the way that this came about was pretty simple. It was because the architect was an SAE, and because he gave a 19-year-old kid a chance to express himself. And you know, it was the start of my art career. You would not believe what this did to me. You know, I make a living as a sculptor and an artist to this day only because an SAE gave me a break. And it's almost too much for me. You know, I see this whole thing, and every time we come here, it puts everything into perspective. As if all the effort, if all the time we spent was all well worth it. I kept on saying to some people that maybe the path of least resistance is the best, because it worked out for me. The things that you'll find along the way that you're good at, you know, that please you and that you're passionate about, those are the things to pursue. And Jesus, I can't think of anything else. What an opportunity. What a weird little shot at something permanent, you know. I think you're all going to have your opportunities. There's 50 you pledges. You're going to make your own history, and you have the same opportunities here. I think that we're talking about the idea of the phoenix and the way this fraternity has survived from the worst times when we were actually desolated to the fact that there's been a rebirth.